Site 2 is in the Memorial Park, and Site 3 is between Egan and Hart. Those have a much more lengthy process that we're working with State Historic Preservation Office on right now. When I say we, there's a team, FEMA environmental folks are working with the state and us on that and such. So that's even much more of a long shot that any of that work will be done in bid this year.
And the reason why I ask is we got to pay for this up front and then we get reimbursed. That's why I want to make sure that Sonia, we have it in the budget to do this.
Right. And the one thing, if I may, Roxy may recall, or we've had a lot of different discussions, so I'm putting her on the spot. Did I recall if there was a no-interest loan program that we can...
Either low interest or no interest that we can borrow from at the state level. When and if we decide to do that, we would reach out to our state FEMA rep, and she would help step us through that. But yes, there are some low interest and no interest loans available to us.
Okay.
So in other words, you could probably finance this whole project with a no or low interest loan, and then just
pay it off when we get the reimbursement.
When you get the reimbursement money.
Okay.
It'd be a lot more palatable on the budget side.
Yep, that's what I was concerned about.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Not hearing any. Sonia, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Wire.
Aye.
Commissioner Bill.
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner.
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw.
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Thank you, Chad. Thank you again, Roxy. Item number 2, Nancy, if you want to come on up and bring us up to speed on the authorize the mayor to sign survey certificate form, Madison Public Library 2020 South Dakota Public Library Survey.
Sure. You have the report that we submit to the state every year. You also have my brief explanation for some of the numbers on there. And so I'm here if you have any questions about any part of the report or anything else at the library, I will try to answer.
Okay. Do I have a motion to authorize the mayor to sign survey certificate form, Madison Public Library 2020 South Dakota Public Library Survey?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Is there any questions, comments,
No
discussion?
questions, just a lot of work, but turned out good. So thank you for doing that.
It's an annual event.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sonia, will you take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Bill.
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner.
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw.
Aye.
Commissioner Wire.
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Item number 3, Chad, you want to bring us up to speed on the authorize the mayor to sign application Sundog Coffee permit to occupy the right-of-way outdoor seating South Egan Avenue.
Yes, I can. I've been involved in quite a limited basis on this. I think Tracy in the finance office has been working on this, but when we've used permits occupied right-of-way form when there's permanent occupations, such as landowners installing a pipe to a storm sewer inlet or something to that effect at various times. And then we keep a record of that. Other cases would be where there is SDN. They're not a franchise. They may go through this process, and then various others that you may recall seeing over the years. But as I recall, last year was the first year that this temporary nature came up, where some of the folks on Main Street have wanted to put, I don't know what it's referred to as a bump out or something like that, a patio or a sitting area for their clients. And during those discussions, it was pondered how was the best way to deal with this or to give approval. And there's this mechanism that we have where they're occupying the right of way. They're putting private property in the right of way and their clients and so on. So that was used last year. And I think there was 2 or so last year. And so when this came up again this year, Tracy had asked me about it. I said, well, I suspect to just use the same thing. And that was even talked about last year, anticipating this year. And so I think the finance office works with our attorney to review any liability waivers or something like that. But again, I've been more on the outside than inside on this, but it's just a continuation of what you've seen in previous years. I know that's not a lot of benefit for the newer commissioners, but that's what I would submit at this time.
Okay, thank you. Do you remember how long we went? Was that November 1st last year?
We extended it.
Well, we extended it, but because I
I
do
don't
see
remember.
the applicant is asking will be removed by November 30th.
I guess the street department might have an interest in that. I think Mr. Gagne was here too. Yeah.
I think it also says in there weather permitting, so I think if we have a big storm coming, we could probably make arrangements. You know, if it's a couple inches and we get plow around it or whatever, but if we get a foot of snow coming, we better think about moving it. So other than that, I don't have any issues.
Okay.
And I'd like to stay at the November 1 area because no matter what you do, it takes a while to get it moved out of there. So I think November 1 is sufficient. I'd make a motion that we leave it till November 1 because this last year, October 15th, I think we had some snow and we had to plow around it. That could have been there to stay, but instead it got nice, and I'm glad it did. But I'd say no. I'll make a motion. November 1 is deadline.
Do I have a second? Not hearing any. Do I have a motion to authorize the mayor to sign application Sundog Coffee permit to occupy right-of-way outdoor seating South Egan Avenue for November 30th?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Is there any comments or discussion?
Biggest thing, as long as you're comfortable with it, Gary, and we know that we would work with the businesses, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, if I can just make a comment, like, I always reach out to Gary before we put it out, and he can reach out to me, you know, hey, get it out of there and stuff. Like last year, right, we did ask for an extension. It was really nice weather. I personally don't want to move it when there's snow, so like, it'll be moved out before there's snow. Like, that's just, you know, but it gives us sometimes the first doesn't always work the greatest or something, so it gives us a weekend that we can arrange to get it out of there and stuff. But
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Not hearing any. Sonia, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Waldner,
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Wire,
Aye.
Commissioner Thill,
Hey,
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Chad, number 4, approve advertisement for bid water system improvement, Phase 1B, Phase 2, and water tower loop line.
Yes, thank you. This is the next couple portions of work for the rural development project. As you read, Phase 1B, Phase 2, and the tower loop line are included in this advertisement. They are to be open separate projects, so we could have 3 separate contractors here. There's been some Banner is working with us, they're a partner on here, and I should say, I believe Weston Blasius from Banner one of the primary designers for this. But there's two projects. Phase 2 is in the northeast part of town generally. Phase 1B is in the northwest part of town, generally described as an area north of the current project that was bid last year, Phase 1A, where that's being worked on. And then Schedule 2 here in the advertisement is actually for this tower loop line, which we need in place, as we are already under contract for building a tower through the rural development funds. And so this is the advertisement for bids to start putting that onto the street, so to speak. And we would recommend that you approve this contingent upon RD approval. They usually, they're still reviewing a few things, but most everything we do when we're talking to them is contingent upon RD approval of the advertisement. With that, if any, this hit some real big high points. I don't know, Brad, if you want anything to add to that, or Weston is on the line, or any of us could try to answer any questions if you have any. This has been, I guess one last comment, I mean, the project been going on, what, 4 years? So we've been working with our steering committee, which that included the mayor and the utilities commissioner. Less so in recent months, but during the first months and years of the project, it was almost weekly meetings and such. But this is just a continuation and the finally of getting this to the bid stage.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve advertisement for bid April 22nd for the water system improvement Phase 1B, Phase 2, and water tower loop line on approval from R&D, correct, Chad?
Correct, contingent upon approval from rural development.
I just have one question. Do I have to make a motion first? Do we have a motion?
No.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Chad, in Schedule 2B, the 2 bid in this document, we're going to take bids up till 12 o'clock a.m. Do we really want to be here at midnight to take bids, or do we need to get that changed?
Yeah, that does look like a typo. Weston, if you could make a note of that, I think Weston's on the line.
Yeah, say that again, Chad. I was getting choppy on me here.
Yeah, the bid schedule 2 listed to be opened at 12 a.m. That should be p.m. right at noon.
Okay, yep, I'll take note of that and make the update on that.
I mean, unless, of course, you want to be here at midnight.
No, that's not the plan.
I'll sure let you if you want.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for making that.
Okay, that's all I have.
Chad, in Phase 1A, did we have any alternates in that? Do you remember?
So Phase 1A was bid last year.
Right.
There were no alternates in Phase
Okay.
1A. There are 2 alternates in Phase 1B. And you may, I don't know if it talks about that in here, you may, or it does, excuse me. Part of the reason those were included is at the recommendation of RD actually, because we have $2 million for the grant for this project, and those are the dollars we use last. And they recommended that when we were preparing our preliminary engineering report document, to include that in there and then go straight forward and bid it, so that if we get really good bid prices and they're under our budget, we can work back so we can use every single penny of our grants. And so that's why there's alternates. Whether or not current bidding environment will support being able to award them, we won't know until bid day.
And we have to come in under bid for both Phase 1B and 2 before we can do the alternates on 1B. Is that correct? Or are they split?
They're all really an independent analysis, but we'll all have them on the same day.
Okay.
And it takes quite a bit of time to kind of plug those into the project budget. There's a lot of moving parts, and so we're poised to be able to do that and report on that, obviously with a bid recommendation. But I would it's safe to say that, yes, if we're not under what we have in line for the project and in the RV budget, we won't be awarding any alternates.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or discussion? Not hearing any. Sonia, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Wire,
Aye.
Commissioner Phil,
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner,
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Item number 5. Sonia, you want to bring us up to speed on the appoint election board?
Yep, I'm gonna ask that the board or the commission appoint the individuals listed as, we have 2 boards essentially this year. One that will handle A through K, one that will handle L through Z, since it's only a municipal election. We don't have to separate by wards or any of that, so it should simplify things a little bit. We split them in the middle of the alphabet, so that will hopefully keep the demand on those resources the same for both boards. No change to the fees from last year. That should be it.
Okay. Do I have a motion to appoint the election board?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any comments or discussion for Sonia?
Okay.
Not hearing any. Sonia, would you take roll call, please?
Commissioner Wire,
Aye.
Commissioner Phil,
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner,
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Item number 6, Chad, consider sidewalk extension request for sidewalk improvement 2021, 114 North Olive Avenue.
Yes, thank you. You may remember, I believe Mr. Lean, Stephen Lean, that submitted this. He used a form that we used for another purpose, but I think you get the point. And I may talk about this and many of the things in the next item will overlap onto this. It's about an extension request, but you all passed the resolution after several steps with the sidewalk committee and so on to install sidewalks in various locations. I believe there's 5 different areas of town. And in this area, on Olive Avenue, south of 2nd Street, south of the highway, these gentlemen had requested an extension for a year. These have come up before for the city commission. Most typically, there's a project that they're looking to try to do in an upcoming year or something like that, and they don't want to put in sidewalk and then destroy it or something to that effect. In this case, I believe there's some economic hardships identified and comments related to that effect in these extension requests. I believe, I don't know if they give a time, just 1 year, is that what they had indicated? Yeah, 1 year.
1 year.
The request would be to consider extending for these folks for 1 year.
Okay. Do I have a motion to consider sidewalk extension request for sidewalk improvement 2021 for 114 North Olive Avenue for 1 year?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any comments or discussion? Not hearing any?
That's just the one address?
Just the one address, yep, for now.
For
Yep.
now.
Yep.
And if it is appropriate, you probably could cite within the motion. It's always good for the posterity to know the reason, that due to COVID concerns and COVID damages, I guess, however you want to word that in your minutes.
Hardships.
Economic hardship from COVID, is that,
Yeah.
okay. No comments or concerns or discussion. Sonia, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Waldner,
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Wire,
Aye.
Commissioner Phil,
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Item number 7, consider sidewalk extension request for sidewalk improvement 2021 for 122 North Olive Avenue for 1 year for the same economic hardship due to COVID-19.
I'll make a motion to consider the sidewalk extension.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further comments or discussion? Not hearing any. Before we take a roll call vote on that, I would like to reach out, Chad. I would like to get with the sidewalk committee, Chad, and maybe look at extending these. I know we talked about it before, extending it. I mean, we send letters out in December, and we expect these people to have a contractor found and put the sidewalk in by 6 months, 7 months, July. Just on the back burner, I would like to see us maybe do a year, go a whole 2-year cycle. Any other comments? Not hearing any. Sonia, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Bill,
Aye.
Commissioner Wire,
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner, Commissioner Waldner,
He froze up.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Item number 8, reconsider design plan on water main improvement project on North Division, or on North Union, excuse me. Did you have any comments, Chad, on this?
Yeah,
or-
I can,
Okay.
if you'd like, whatever you'd
Yep.
like.
Yep.
Okay, yes, thank you. I understand there was some discussion and public comment at the last meeting related to this, and there's been some discussion since. And just give you some additional background on the current project. Typically, we do a couple different types of projects, and we include them in our 5-year infrastructure improvement plan. Utility projects are what we call some projects where we generally retain the curb and gutter and replace the surfacing, and versus a reconstruction project. That's where it would be more of a full-blown reconstruction. The curb and gutter and everything would be taken out. Those are commonly the type of projects that you see in there that we plan for and budget for and so on. For this particular project, we chose a utility project. That's a method we've used for a period of time, and we've been able to deliver projects in that fashion for recent years. And so we proceeded with budgeting last year with that type of project, and then we proceeded with the design phase for that type of project as well. There's probably different opinions on that. We try to get, when we use a utility project, we try to use good judgment, and if curb and gutter is typically what's retained, of course. If it's in reasonable good shape, it's functioning properly, there's not a lot of dips and breaks and such like that, we think those are candidates for those utility projects. Even when we think the curb and gutter is in pretty good shape, we would spot repairs for different locations when they're apparent that they need to be fixed. And so that's a little bit about the criteria. Could every project be a reconstruction project? Absolutely. We started doing this several years back. We tried to stretch our dollars. They originally started with it was with water main primarily, where we would just put in a new water main, and we most of the time just replace a portion of the street, just cut a trench and replace a portion of the surfacing. Again, trying to stretch our dollars, right, wrong, or otherwise. We tried to do some analysis before to see if the curb and gutter was suitable for that, because if there's slope issues and such like that, sometimes they're not as good of candidates. So that's a little bit of background and some of the history. Then we progressed to those utility projects from just a trench. We thought, well, we're there, let's just do all the surfacing over there. We might not be back for a while, because there was a couple years where we just did half the street, and we said, let's just do the whole surfacing section. And so that's where we were at now, and that's what some projects we implemented. I guess the last 3 years have been that increased scope. I think I'm getting right back to 17 was the first year we started that. So a little bit of background there. The existing conditions, there's a small drainage basin here for this project. To my knowledge, there's been no property damage due to water, to any structures or for this site due to any drainage concerns. There is poor drainage in some of this area, in the northwest area in particular. The curve is very flat there. So that's one issue. And then one of the bigger issues is back when this was installed 40 years ago or so, it was installed with a uniform slope, and that means there was no crown in the road so the entire roadway slopes from the east to the west, particularly at the north portion of the project. I'm speculating that the reason for that is because of the topography of the existing ground before the road was installed, that it was sloping and it would create some problems. I don't know the history of when the houses were built there. Perhaps they were built after the road was installed. Perhaps not. I don't know. But oftentimes they'll be installed and placed at an elevation that they will function with the road. So I can't say for sure on that. Thirdly, to the design, again, I talked about the scope of work that's limited with what I call these utility projects. So what we did to try to address some of this drainage issue with the flat curve at the northwest corner for part of the project is we are tearing out a couple hundred feet of curb. Well, excuse me, like 100. I don't know the number, 120 feet or something to that effect. And we're going to put that in a little bit of a steeper slope to try to let that water drain out of there a little bit better. There's some very limited options as far as raising curb. We reviewed the topography and talked to some of the adjacent landowners. They thought that might be feasible, and we confirmed that with some of our survey. Normal crown, if the normal crown would be taken out, with the uniform slope across the roadway would be taken out to put a normal crown or inverse V, perhaps, as you might think of it in your mind's eye. There's approximately 2 feet of elevation difference at portions of it, particularly at the north end. With the limited ability to raise the west side, that would mean that the east side would have to come down probably 1.5 feet, perhaps even 2 feet if you don't raise it at all. And that can create some problems for the adjacent driveways and such. So we opted to not do that. In other words, we opted not to change the drainage patterns other than a slight improvement at that northwest area. That's what we opted to do there. Could it be different? Could it be a reconstruction? Absolutely. Should it be? I suppose that is a thing we need to revisit from time to time to say. If we want to try to not just kind of do it and retain that curb and gutter, do improvement projects and retain the curb and gutter there. We've opted to try to implement that process for this one, right, wrong, or otherwise. The project, as I mentioned earlier, was budgeted for the scope that you see in these plans. I believe it will be within the scope within these plans. Could it be changed? Yes, it could be changed. It's most likely we would have to not bid, or we could go to bids and reject all bids if you wanted to see the price. Or you could cease that operation now. We could issue an addendum to stop the bids and not accept bids. But then there would have to be some redesign work there to do that. If we wanted to expand the scope of the project to, it may or may not include retaining walls. It may include an easements to redo some driveways. May not. We just haven't investigated that with So it's likely have to be rebid and at least partially redesigned, and then it would probably be outside the budget. So long story short, I think it would probably be pushed back 1 year if there would be a change of that sort. Just saying that as a matter of fact. Today, now is not the time to start trying to redesign things. Construction's gonna be starting to wrap up. We're bidding, $7 million worth of other projects that we're working on. We just don't have time. What was my other point? What do you think about that? Oh, we do have a project in our 5-year plan that is planned for 2022, tentatively. That would be the 9th Street project. That's sort of a step 2 project to this. That would tie in with this one. We thought we wanted to get this one done first because it would be more difficult to do them both together. So that may or may not affect the timing of that project. Maybe they could be merged together and have one bigger project. I don't know. But so those are a couple things. Some of the things I had heard, feedback from the commission, and I have talked to the neighbors. I did talk to them before we bid on the project several times. And so that's a bit of a report based upon some of the things I had found out about the last meeting. I don't know if you wanted that type of report or what exactly you wanted,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, but I can stand by for questions now or later.
Okay.
I guess I'd like to know why the Public Works Commissioner wasn't involved in when you had these meetings with Adam and the mayor. Why wasn't the Public Works Commissioner involved in that? Why was I left out?
I don't know.
Totally unacceptable answer as far as I'm concerned. Gary, was you involved in it?
Do we have any other comments? Come on out, Mr. Johnson.
I own a couple of properties up there on North Union Avenue. I don't know, a little bit upset at the poor planning. These issues were brought up years and years ago about the street being 24 inches difference from the east side to the west side. We talk about different types of projects. I really don't care the nomenclature of a project. I'm more concerned about what's in the project. I've looked at the plans briefly. We're not even replacing the sewer line. If the sewer line's good, that's fine. But we're talking about being out of budget. Well, if we would have had proper planning for this project, we wouldn't be quote, quote, out of budget. We've known these problems have existed. This isn't an overnight thing. That street's been deteriorating for the last 6-8 years. When we say that the curb and gutter is good, well, then why did we replace the curb and gutter on Liberty, Chicago, and West Avenue? That was good too. So, that argument doesn't hold water for me. My gutter up there holds water for me. And this isn't rocket science to get this project changed. You should be able to get it done 3 days. You can get your numbers. And then it's a matter of putting it on plans and rebidding it. It's not a cancel the project year. I don't understand, we're replacing 150 foot of curb, but we're going to leave the rest of it. How do we determine that? I know how we determine part of it because the Northwest has got water. The street's got to be leveled up. That's all there is to it. We get a gully washer rain and we get water running in on that trailer house. The trailer's gonna be tore down. You know, we can play with the elevations, we can raise the west side of the street 6, 8 inches and drop the other street, or the other side of the street down. Retaining walls, you've got retaining walls on Second Street, Highway 34 that runs through town. The other thing that is a little bit, you know, the engineer says that he talked to the landowners. I don't know to what extent. I voiced my opinion or my concerns, but I've got a vacant lot in the back. Okay, so now the reason you put in, when you put in sewer and water, or do a reconstruction, let's stub in to the property so we don't have to cut your street up when we develop that lot. And that's not asking for anything out of the ordinary. You put new services in to the houses, to the curb stop on on this last Liberty, Chicago and West. So that's, you know, you're not doing anything more than you did on that project. I think this is, for lack of a better term, I think this is a redheaded stepchild project. We're doing it just because Johnson's complaining for the last 28 years. And now we're getting kind of a half a project, really, you know. That street was put in approximately 71, 72. Henry Musil, the trailer house, was the first property up there. I don't know, I just think this project is poor design and has to be looked at again. The other thing is, now's the time to fix this. You've got a city sewer main that's cutting across on my private property through my landscape. What do you do if you have a collapse on the sewer? You're gonna dig up my front yard? I don't think so. Now's the time to get the sewer out of my yard and in the street. Right now, the way the plans show, you're gonna take out 15, 20 feet of my sidewalk for some reason, I don't know why. I mean, this whole project is really, really backwards. Another question I have is I look at the plans and we're putting in new curb stops for the apartment houses, 2.5 inch and an inch, or 2 inch, an inch and a half, but we're not putting in any new curb stops for the houses. Why not? That's my biggest concern. I mean, do you have any questions for me? I think there are things that this project could be changed, and if they're not life-changing, I mean, you don't have to cancel the project for the year. I mean, I don't want that, because I've got more asphalt in my yard than I got on the street. You know, we got more chuck holes there than you probably got in a mile of another street in town. It's just a poor setup. Any questions for me? I'll shut up.
I have a question for Chad. Chad, if we put up retaining wall, you know, if we're going to lower the east side, how, I see there's a driveway here. Is that going to make that driveway really sharp? I mean, steep?
It will steepen it. I can't tell you exactly what the slope will be at this time, but as I mentioned earlier, I think if you wanted to make a normal crown, I guess is what we try to do if we can, is the elevations are the same on both sides. Again, if you wanted to do that, it's not always the case, but you could, you'd have to drop it 1.5 foot about. And so
The one with the house.
correct.
Correct.
Correct, yes. And then it would be I'll guess again, I'll describe it, an inverted V, normal crown. So you would probably, yeah, in that case, you might be looking at retaining wall, down there, sidewalk. And if you got the approach pavement, which comes right off the back of the curb and gutter, and then typically it's driveway. I'll refer to a distinction. The approach goes right up to the sidewalk, and then the driveway goes up. You may have to, work with that landowner to get some easements for putting in a retaining wall if it's going to be 6 inches off the property line, which is common. And then maybe some regrading of their driveway as well to try to improve the slope. Perhaps. I haven't analyzed that.
So then them driveways would probably match about 6 or 8 other ones that are in town, just up and then into their garage.
Yeah, it would definitely be a change, and it would affect those landowners. Yeah.
So then we'd have a couple more sharp approaches going into their driveways.
Yeah. You don't like those, I suspect?
I don't know. I don't, but I don't have to use it. But the taxpayers that I have talked to in the last couple of weeks, they don't like it.
Right. And so to remedy that, if they were not to be steep, you'd have to get an easement and hire a contractor, include that as a scope of the work to replace some of the driveway up onto the private property.
Would you attempt to regrade that?
Yeah, you'd have to.
Where do you stop?
I mean, it all comes down to, I hear the street was put in wrong many, many years ago. Not blaming anybody, but it's 2 feet taller than the other. We got it tore up. Of course, you want to fix something while you're at it. But I don't want to cause problems for the neighbor across the street either. So that's the tough question there. Yeah. How much more steeper are them driveways going to be?
If I can say something,
Yep.
I shouldn't be having to take street water through my property. I shouldn't have to take right away. I mean, this property's been putting up with this since 71, 72. Okay? So we're all concerned about the west side property, or the east side property. It's not adversely causing them a problem like water running across. Yeah, my slope on my driveway to the house that I live in now isn't perfect, but it's a driveway, and I don't drag, and I don't, have mud or anything else. But I definitely do have mud, and I do have water, and I do have a mess, and we've got to get this road leveled up, because, I'm gonna stick another set of twin homes up there, and I'm not putting them up there if the street looks like crap.
When's the bid letting for this?
I believe it's the 6th.
April 6th.
Could you get another set of plans drawn up and have this added in so they could bid this part of the new project?
Not with it being next week, no.
I guess I'm not in favor of this project stopping at all. I would like this project to happen. I think it's important because it's going to tie into the 9th Street project. But I also want to make sure that we do it right, obviously. And, I spent an hour up there on Friday with Chad just going through things. But I am concerned because I don't want water running into people's properties. I don't think that's not a good thing either. What about the curb and gutter? I mean, we can't talk about even getting a little bit of that corner regraded and then look at the curb and gutter exterior, like have somebody subcontract that outside of this?
Well, you want to do it all part of the same project. You don't want multiple contractors with different contracts in there trying to do that. It would be best to try to do it within the same document. If we were to delay it, we could look at different options, and could look at different options and see if we could try to get them trying to bid. I think it would be, we do other things, so it might take a few extra days.
Could we bid as an alternate?
Well, the challenge is to get that all incorporated and for the bid.
Push
Before
the
the
bid
bid
out a
would be
week,
too
Brad,
difficult.
or-
And we just wouldn't have time to get the proper documents to the contractor for them to analyze it and then prepare an alternate. You definitely could do that if it was set up front, for sure. Yes.
What did you say?
I just asked if we could push the bid back at all, now that we've set that bid date, can we push it
Mayor?
back?
Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. It appears somewhat obvious to me that obviously we're not gonna solve this right now tonight,
Yep.
but it's pretty obvious we need to hit the pause button. I'm not saying the stop button by any means, but because it appears that the plan that's on the table today is not right. And we all, at least, okay, myself, I'll speak for myself, I want this thing to be done right. I personally do not know exactly what right means, but I can tell you that the bid letting today obviously is not right. I mean, there's obviously some problems, and I'm not sure if our city engineer can't come up with alternatives. Do we need to bring in a third party, have somebody else bring in an unbiased opinion of exactly how to do this? And I understand this isn't like a corridor, it's not a main, through street, but at the same time, we got to do it right. I mean, we don't want to be fighting this thing for another 40 years. Why? Let's fix it right and move on. What are we doing? Why are we even discussing this? Fix it right and move on.
Okay.
I don't know what right is, but it needs to be done right.
Okay.
And my only comment would be, is I'm not disagreeing with Commissioner Waldner, is that, as I described for you at the beginning of the project, there's a way to scope a project and another way. So it could be a difference of opinion, on a way to do that. So I wouldn't say it's not done right. It will function, and it's not going to make anything any worse.
Chad needs to come to the microphone, please.
Well, I take issue with your comment about it functions. If you have water running in your yard, it would not function. So that's the end of my comment. I don't want right-of-way water running through.
Sidebars, I don't believe it will, and I don't believe it does now. But I'm not going to get into an argument today, if that's all right with you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Mr. Waldner, I guess my only point was, is as I discussed when this was first put together, when my first comments was that there are different ways to do a project, and this was just one way that we opted to do it, which we have utilized in the past. But that doesn't mean we can't learn from it. Maybe we go away from these types of projects, because if we're going to get in there and we're going to be working on a project, let's spend the extra money and let's take out the curb and gutter and reconstruct it. So I'm looking at trying to use this information as a learning opportunity and a growing opportunity, but I think the project will function as put together in a similar fashion as we've done it in recent years. It's a whole other debate and discussion if we want to try to kind of repurpose and look at these a little bit different, where we would increase the scope, if you will, and maybe say, let's just do all curb and gutter. And in no cases will we not put in, or will we try to retain the curb and gutter, which is, it's a matter of opinion. If that's a better way to do it, let's do it. Maybe we've been too cheap. We're trying to be too cheap, and I don't say that facetiously. We're trying to stretch our dollars. And so that's what we're trying to do, and we need to readjust. We need to readjust, and I appreciate the feedback.
Chad, if we tell you to put the bid, take it off,
Mhm.
the bid off, can we get this redesigned and back out for bids?
I think we can. It's gonna be much later, obviously, than ideal bid letting. Might reduce some competition and such, but we can sure try.
Okay.
We can sure try. We have all the survey on the ground, and we can try to put together. Typically it's a 10 days advertisement from the time you authorize. You first advertise, got to be 10 days advertised twice before the opening. So it's not for sure that we can get that done, but we can try.
I guess I have to agree with Commissioner Waldner. We got to do it the right way, and it's not like it was dropped on our shoulders just in the past couple of weeks. Every time we brought this up, Mike has been here in front talking to us about it, and nothing's got done. Somebody dropped the ball somewheres, and I guess.
Excuse me, Mr. Bill. I met with Mr. Johnson a couple different times during this process.
I guess I wouldn't, just in Chad's defense, I wouldn't say it's the wrong way or the right way, is what you're saying. This, a different way. So, do I have a motion that wants to have him reach out, kill the bid, and re-scope this?
Do we have to reject the bids? We have to let the bid process come
I don't
through?
think so.
We can just cancel the bid.
We could do an issue addendum canceling the
You can
project.
issue it, exactly. That's right.
Okay.
I don't want the project to stop though, because it needs to get done. That's the bad thing. I want it done right, of course, but.
Yeah, we could possibly, like
Because it
you're
could be-
saying, we could possibly have our engineering firm redesign it, the scope, send it out, and everybody's busy, and,
We're gonna be sitting on it next year. That's the.
I mean,
Run the
It
risk
may
of.
push, and it may not be just a function of time. It may be a function of budget. You know, we have about $385,000 in the budget for this. You know, we could easily see adding, 50,000 to this by, replacing all the curb and gutter. Probably that's on the low side, probably. So.
What if we were to, never mind, I already asked that question. I wish, part of me, I wish if we could do a chunk of it, and then if we had to, bid it into next year for some of the curb and gutter when we're working again. At least get the top half done, and if we had to do the curb and gutter on the bottom half as we were going through the process.
We can look at it, and if it works better to just bid it all as a larger project next year, that's what might end up happening.
I make a motion we delay this for 30 days to see what we got coming up.
I think we're gonna have to have a motion that's more precise than that.
okay.
I think we're gonna have to have a motion that either directs Chad to proceed as is, or I think the other option on the table is to issue an addendum canceling and redo it. I think those are your two choices,
Yep.
Bob.
I'll make the motion on the second one.
I'm gonna second that.
Okay. Any further comments or discussion?
If I may,
Yep.
I don't think it's not a bad thing. This is good feedback. Should it have been collected sooner? Yes. It wasn't, but if that's the way it ends up going, we'll just readjust and move on. And
Okay.
we'll have to deal with this hurdle, and we will. So.
We deal with many of them,
Yep.
and that's how we learn. I mean,
Yep.
that's the best part of this, so. Like I said all along, I wanna make sure we do it right, but I also wanna, if we can still try and get it in this year, if we can do it, that would be wonderful. Because it is important, because Mr. Johnson is investing in this community, and he is building twin homes, and he's trying to provide housing, and obviously we do have our housing crunch issues from time to time, so, I mean, I think we can do it right and make it attractive for everybody involved, then we're all gonna win on the deal when it's all said and done.
Okay. Any other comments? Not hearing any. Sonia, will you take roll call vote?
Commissioner Phil,
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner,
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Wire,
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Public comment? Thank you, Chad.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Okay, we got Rob.
Nope,
We
good.
already
Yep.
discussed yours, so you're good. We got John Nelson, if you want to
Here.
come up and name, address, and what you
My
got.
name's John Nelson. I live at 1314 Northeast 3rd Street. And I've lived in Madison for about 20 years. Recently retired. I'd like to bring before you the topic of campaign signs. It doesn't seem like, earth-shaking topic, but I appreciate the opportunity to say something about it. I have talked to the mayor about this and to Commissioner Waldner. It's not a real big deal. Those of you elected officials know how important it is to be able to put your name out there with these campaign signs. Not only does that let people know there's an election coming, but it informs the citizenry of the people that are putting themselves forward as candidates for the positions. And I think that's a very valuable thing. And so I'm not really requesting any kind of major thing. But I'll give a personal account of where this sort of comes from. My wife and I often walk through the city, and especially up around our neighborhood, 5th Street, 6th Street. We walk down 3rd Street and do loops around there. And one of the things I noticed was the persistence of campaign signs from the election on November 6th. Some of those campaign signs persisted until well into February. That's way longer than those signs need to be up. The city maintains statutes that provide for your, clearing your sidewalk and maintaining your lawn and lots of other things about your dogs and pets and whether you can have chickens in the yard or anything like that. We don't have anything, to my understanding, there's nothing that says anything about when those campaign signs come up or when they have to come down. It seems reasonable to me that those campaign signs might come up 30 days before an election takes place and be taken down 10 days after. Some of the cities in the area have such stipulations. They require that those campaign signs come down. Flandreau, for example, requires that the campaign signs come down 10 days after the election takes place. Sioux Falls has a similar kind of thing. Sioux Falls, the rules in Sioux Falls are very extensive. They govern how many signs you can have up, how many square feet of campaign signage you can have in your yard. I put campaign signs up myself, and when the election's over, I get out there and take them down again. I think they're an eyesore, but whether or not the election's coming, but I think they serve a valuable purpose, and then they should come down. That's
Okay.
my 2 cents.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions for me or anything? I'd like you to consider making that something that Madison would adopt, and I think it'd make it a better place.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks,
John.
John.
Moving into announcements. Item number 1, you can absentee vote from March 29th to April 12th.
Correct.
8, you guys, what time?
8 in the morning till 5 p.m.
8 to 5 p.m. Okay?
Are they mailing them anymore, or are they done
We
doing
can,
that?
if somebody
Yep.
wants them mailed out, most of the time people just come vote in
Sure.
person,
Okay.
absentee, because they're not available on the 13th.
Yep.
I
Okay.
guess that's an option.
And those that are mailed out has to be back to you by the 12th?
They,
Or-
yes, absentee voting has to be in by 5 p.m. on the 12th.
On the 12th. So if they ask you to mail one out to them, they have to have it back by the 12th, not the 13th.
Correct, the sooner the better.
Okay.
There,
Okay.
if someone's handicapped or can't leave their home, we can actually, they can have someone come pick one up for them and bring it back. And that can come in on the 13th
Okay.
until I believe 3 p.m.
Okay.
In just that situation where it's,
Okay. And item number 2, notice of election on April 13th at the City Armory.
yep,
And those
7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Thank you, Sonia. Did I miss anything there?
No, that should be
Okay. Any other announcements? Not hearing any. We will go into it. Do I have a motion to go into exec session?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All right.
But
All opposed? You're now in exec session.
Does he have a separate link?
Did we have a separate link for,
Ask Kristen.
huh?
We'll have to ask Kristen.
Okay.
yeah, we do.
You do. Okay, Kristen's on it. Thank you, Mike. We'll see you on the other side.
Yeah.
Thank you, folks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You gonna put that out this weekend then?
Probably not the.
Right now.
All right.
Right to work. Get your drug out. It's nice out.
Yeah, we're gonna go put it out now.
Sweet.
The